Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I finally got around to watching the last Hellraiser film I ever saw. I never saw Judgment, but this one is a 2011 film 6 years after the previous movie called Hellraiser Hellworld in 2005. This one is from 2011, Hellraiser Revelations. This cover is embarrassing. The movie itself is embarrassing, but that cover's really embarrassing. It's under the Dimension Extreme brand, which was always fun. As in bad. What I think is hilarious about this cover, you might not see this on the thumbnail or on this video itself, but when you look at the title, it says Hellraiser Revelations. If you zoom in really close, in parentheses, it says Hellraiser Revelations. Again. Like you couldn't read it. Like you couldn't freaking read it. The first time I saw this way back in the day, I did not hate it. About 8 or 9 years ago, I had a Netflix account. And before I met my wife, like maybe a couple of months before I actually went on the first date with my wife. I knew her from high school, but first time I ever had a date with her, about 6 to 8 months before that, I saw that all the Hellraiser films, and at this current time, this is the only one that existed. It was the newest one. This was probably 2014-ish, I want to say. Yeah, I want to say about 2014. Anyway, so I watched all of them for the first time, really. I had kind of seen the first two before this, but not really much. I wasn't very big on Hellraiser. Still not, as you can tell from the reviews. And Revelations, for whatever reason, I liked it the first time I saw it. I don't really understand why I did. I wasn't a fan of a lot of the elements. And this current time, I watched it in preparation for this reboot from David Bruckner on Hulu. Very excited for that. And I'm also excited to go into talking about Hellraiser Judgment after this review. I was excited about this. And I was mainly hoping to get through Hellraiser Deader and then Hellworld to get to this, because I was hoping that this would be just as good as I remembered it. I didn't remember much. I remember one of the funniest things about this movie. Number one, it's directed by Victor Garcia, who did Mirrors 2. I remember picking that movie up, renting it, back in the day when my grandmother was still around, probably whenever that came out, 2010, I guess, something like that. And I watched it, and I remember the first, I watched like maybe 5 minutes of it. There was a guy looking in a mirror, and then I was like, hell no. It doesn't look like the Kiefer Sutherland movie, and I turned it off. I never watched the rest of it ever again. I think there's 3 of those now, I don't know. But Victor Garcia went on to make some other things, like the direct-to-video sequel to a film I just mentioned in the previous review, Into the Forest, called Return to House on Haunted Hill, I think is the title of it. It's the sequel to the remake of the old Vincent Price movie. Victor Garcia has had his name on too many big projects, in my opinion. Like that, like Mirrors 2. They're low-budget sequels, you know? And you can tell with both of those, and you can tell with this, too. The second thing I thought was funny was that every time I turn around, I don't care whose review I'm looking at, what channel, big or small, there is a comment constantly, or some kind of comment, from one of the people who started this movie, one of the guys, I don't know who it was, I think it was one of the younger guys, too, who was a die-hard fan of Hellraiser. And he talks about how awful this movie was to make. And always seeing that, hearing him talk about that, all the comments I've seen on YouTube over the years of this poor guy, how much he hates this movie, talked about how they had like 12 scripts, they were changing scripts every single day on what they were going to do. It was a mess for him. I feel bad for that guy. The movie is a mess. It's an absolute mess. I do not know what I liked about it the first time I saw it many years ago. But watching it this time, starting it this morning, finishing it before I went to work, I had to wrap my brain around what I was physically watching. After watching 8 Hellraiser movies, and then watching this, knowing I had one more to go, I was hoping this would have been good. It was not. It's complete trash. If you haven't seen Hellraiser Revelations, you're missing out on a so bad it's good type of thing. But not in like a so bad it's good type of way, more like an it's a so bad you can't stop looking at how ugly it is type of situation. As unelegant as that was, inelegant, unelegant, whatever it would be, with how awful this movie is, you're bound to have some kind of good time watching it. Now basically, what is the plot of this movie? Well, it tries to start up the movie with the most sloppy, found footage-esque feel of a movie that I've ever seen in my life. Basically, you have 2 college students or high school graduates or whatever who are going on a wild trip to Mexico. They get out there and they get sucked into drugs and drinking and hookers and all that stuff. Their car gets stolen. And while they're out there, them being best friends, After the hooker debacle happens, they also come across a puzzle box, which is the Lament configuration, or the Lemerchant's configuration, however you want to say it. And they tinker around with that, and they both go to hell. Penhead shows up in the found footage. The shot everywhere like somebody has Parkinson's, shooting everything in the room type of thing. It's almost nauseating to watch. Almost completely nauseating. Even a kid that had a basic camcorder at this time in 2011 would not have filmed this the way they did. It's hard to watch. This is a very great example of a movie that is not like the previous four, who felt like scripts that were designed to incorporate Hellraiser all of a sudden to make it have Penhead in there for like 2 seconds to make it that kind of movie. This feels like a Hellraiser script, like an actual trying to be a Hellraiser movie. Is it good? Hell no. Is it worthwhile? Hell no. Is it watchable? Hell no. You can't not look at it, you know? You kind of feel like Alex and The Clockwork Orange, you know, a little bit as you watch this movie because of how awful it is. It just keeps getting progressively worse as you sit through it. If you haven't seen it, you'll know. If you tried, if you have seen it, you already know. Let's go to counseling together. So, these two kids, they get taken to hell by Penhead, and somehow the footage made its way back to the mom and the family of the one boy, and I guess it's like a year later, I don't remember how long it's been, but apparently they're having like a memorial dinner type of thing where they invite the other kid that was the best friend, they invite his parents over too, to kind of just hang out, have dinner together, and the daughter is a brat. She ruins this, just makes it awful, all about herself, about how she misses her brother and her boyfriend, and how, by the way, the best friend was her boyfriend. It just makes it all about herself. Very selfish kid. Kids are selfish, I get that, but she's worse. She's like 20, you know? She looks 20, and she acts 20 in modern day setting. They're in a very fancy, we rented this for this movie for like 3 days, filming aspect type of house. And it's mostly a one location type of movie. Everybody's in this house, and all of a sudden, when the daughter is going through the bag, looking at the camcorder footage for the first time ever, she did not know about this. The mom is obsessed with the footage. She watches it all the time. Mind you, that includes seeing Penhead that we saw in the opening found footage stuff at the beginning of this movie. The mom knows Penhead exists. The cops have to know that Penhead exists. Everybody at the FBI by this point has to know that Penhead exists. And no one's questioning anything about it. What? It's stupid. The whole thing is stupid. If you can't tell it's a stupid movie, I don't know what to tell you. It has like maybe 1 or 2 good things going for it. Maybe. But that's being generous. It's unwatchable. Now Hellraiser Hellworld, number 8, the one right before this in 2005, about 6 years previously, that one's rough. It's real rough. So is Deader. And I'm not sure which of those two I like more. It doesn't really matter, does it? When I do my ranking video, I will cover that. However, those two actually at least feel like movies. This feels like we have to retain the rights to Hellraiser, so we're going to pump this thing out in a weekend and we're going to have it ready to go. And that's what it feels like. If you know that kind of movie, then that's what you got here. In every single possible way, that's what you got here. By the way, this also marks the first time that Mr. Doug Bradley did not come back to play Penhead. And it was a terrible choice for the guy that they picked instead. I feel bad for him. It did not go well for him. People hate this movie, and I think that they would possibly like it more if Doug Bradley had been involved, but I don't think by much. It's a sloppy, sloppy mess. I can't do anything but shake my head. It's like thinking about some kid that you knew in school who was an asshole, you know, after you graduate, it's been 10 to 15 years. He's probably dead. And when you think back to him, you just kind of shake your head, like, I never liked that guy. I don't know if I wish well for him, but I never liked that guy. That's kind of what I feel like with the Hellraiser films, and with this movie now, after watching it this morning. Not even 24 hours ago, I watched this, and I'm just shaking my head. I can't help it. It's going to be a lengthy, rambly review, because I just don't know what to say about this piece of crap. By the way, part of the story is that one of the kids, after the daughter is seeing the found footage, sees Penhead, she starts messing with the puzzle box she found in the backpack, which again, I don't know how this thing made it all the way back to the US and to this family, but somehow it did. Maybe a private investigator, I don't know. I don't care. I really, really don't care. They might have said it in the film, I just don't care. I don't care at all. She opens up the box, and Penhead shows up. Well, actually, Penhead doesn't show up first. It's actually, one of the boys actually shows up. It's actually the brother of this girl. He shows up, and he's acting a little weird, a little crazy, talking about going back to a place that he doesn't want to go back to. He says he can't go back there. It's a little zany. As you can tell if you're a Hellraiser fan, you probably know what's going on a little bit. The film is very predictable. The twists in here are trying so hard to be clever. This may be, from what I've experienced, the next to best Victor Garcia film after Return to Haunted House on Haunted Hill, whatever the hell that title is. This is rough. As I said, it's a very, very rough one. The characters here are all whiny. Everybody's complaining and trying to figure out what happened to the boys, no matter how long it's been after that event happened. The boys themselves, they're annoying, and the found footage stuff, the way it's shot, makes it worse. The writing of these people, it's just rough. It feels like a lot of it's improv, but in the worst possible way. It's not found footage improv where you can typically do something to add an atmosphere, add some realism to found footage. It's not like that. It's like, we're making a bad movie. Let's just throw everything at the screen, and hopefully something will stick to the wall as we throw things at it left and right, over and over again, all day as we film this thing. It's an ugly movie. Not just with the found footage directing, but just the look of it. It's just, there's like a filter on this. I can't really figure out what it is. It's just ugly. It's very grainy, which I don't have a problem with grain, but at least utilize it. You know, it just, poor camera quality. I don't know. It doesn't work well. My camera on this picture, as ugly as I am, it looks better than this movie. When you watch this movie, you'll see what I'm talking about, if you haven't watched it yet. There's not a ton of CGI in this. I'll give that to this film. It's one of the things that I think is kind of nice. It has a lot of practical effects. And when I say that, it's kind of the Hellraiser sense of practical effects. It has a lot of makeup work in the film. And that stuff looks great. I'm going to be honest with you. I really, really like that. The poor guy who plays Hellraiser has the wrong shaped head. I don't know what his name is. Again, I don't care. This poor guy, he's probably a nice guy in real life, but his head is not shaped like Doug Bradley's. And the makeup with the nails and everything, it just does not work on his head. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Yeah, I'm not gonna get more mean than that. It's just, it doesn't work. It does not work. He does not look good. There are other things in here, other effects, other makeup effects that look really, really solid. Some of the kills in here are done with more practical effects stuff, I would say, than actual CGI type stuff. And that stuff, to me personally, looks really solid. But I don't think there was almost any CGI at all, which shocked me for this, being at very, very, very low budget, maybe a budget of like $50,000 or something. It doesn't have much behind the camera, let's be honest. But for what it was, I can't even call it watchable. It's unwatchable, but it at least tried to do something with the special effects, practical effects, whatever. I admire that, because the last two, Hellworld and Deader, had way too much CGI. I think Hellseeker had a little bit of that too. Not too much, but a little bit there that bothered me. I will give that to this movie. At least it had practical effects. Thank God for Victor Garcia, I guess. The music in this is possibly the worst music in all of the Hellraiser franchise. It sounds the worst. It's clearly the most royalty-free chiptune type stuff that I've ever heard in my life. It is so bad. There are no words. Yeah. So, when it comes to Hellraiser Revelations, I've roasted the hell out of it. And I must tell you, it might be the worst Hellraiser film I've seen. When you look at the IMDb ratings, this has like a 2. Like a 2.6 out of 10. My review in ratio on a 5-star basis won't be too far. This movie is awful. It's a bad cover, bad pick for a new Penhead, real bad pick for a new Penhead. It must have been last minute, dude, like last minute. They took some guy on the crew who was going to be like a stuntman or something and just must have shaved his head without him even knowing. They just said, hey, you're the new Penhead. That's what it feels like. Everybody here seems surprised. Penhead's always making this face where he's like he's surprised all the time. It's hilarious. It's so awful. It's absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen Hellraiser Revelations, you, my friend, are missing out on an iconic death of a franchise that not many people like to begin with. I am one of those people who are not big fans, or not a big fan, something like that, of this franchise. If I had to rate Hellraiser Revelations on a 5-star basis, being possibly the worst of the franchise, and the only thing it has going for it are the practical effects. It is not a Blackwood Evil, which I recently reviewed. It's a Blair Witch wannabe type of movie from 2000. It's not as awful as something like that. And the practical effects thing at least gave me something to look at most of this movie. For as short as the runtime was, it's like an hour and 15 minutes. Not very long at all. Very rough, bad ending in my opinion as well, for an already bad movie. Being a one-shot location type of thing, for the most part, being very cheap and all of that, the special effects really did something nice for this movie, in a way that most movies that are made like this would not have that. So, me enjoying those makeup effects and everything, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 stars. I'm sorry, I can't give it more than that. This movie is so bad. I can't believe that any part of me, even though I'm not a Hellraiser guy, I never have been, I can't believe watching this the first time that for whatever reason, not even 10 years ago, my standards were so low on movies, in my opinion, my tastes in movies were so low, that I for some reason like this massive turd of a misfire of a franchise. I can't believe that. I have to go look up more people's opinions on this because I can't believe how horrible this was. Anyway, Hellraiser Revelations. Have you seen this piece of shit? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section down below. What would you rate this? Is this the worst of the franchise for you? I'm fairly certain that David Bruckner could not come close to how bad this was. If we ever got anything close to this again, I would be shocked, because this feels, again, like a movie that was used to reserve copyright to a film. And I guess we'll see what I think of Judgment, which I just saw for the first time ever. I'm about to review it after this video, and I hope you'll tune in for that. Anyway, 2 out of 5 stars for Hellraiser Revelations. What a mess. Anyway, I'm almost done. Thank God. I can't wait for this to be over. Thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Goodbye.